Welcome to the Idaho Explorer channel. In today's episode, we'll drive northeast on US-20 from Idaho Falls to the Idaho-Montana border at Targhee Pass. This journey covers about 92 miles. We'll visit the towns of Rigby, Lewisville, Menan, Rexburg, St. Anthony, Ashton, and Island Park. We will also do a 9-mile side trip on US 87 to Henry's Lake and the Idaho-Montana border at Raynolds Pass. Unless otherwise indicated, all the photos in this video are my personal photos. Please consult the Idaho A Climbing Guide website for more details on the driving, hiking, and property issues for the hills and peaks discussed in this video. It's a great free resource for hikers and climbers alike. We begin our adventure in Idaho Falls at exit 118 on I-15. This is where US-20 turns north to leave Idaho Falls. US-20 follows I-15 north to exit 119. At exit 119, US-20 heads northeast, past several cities and towns, to eventually climb up over Targhee Pass and drop down to West Yellowstone. Just before reaching Rigby at exit 320, you'll see the Rigby town sign. Leave US-20 at exit 320 and follow Business 20 for less than a mile to reach a junction with Idaho 48 at 1st Street South in Rigby. Go west for a short distance to reach the Rigby TV and Pioneer Museum, which sits on the north side of the road at 118 West 1st Street South. You can't miss it. Yes, Rigby is the birthplace of television. On 1st Street South, you'll see these town flags on old lampposts. A nice touch. Rigby High School is home of the Trojans. But enough of that city stuff. You can reach several knolls and buttes from Rigby. Let's visit the Lewisville knolls. From Rigby, drive west then north on Idaho 48 to Lewisville. Lewisville has a population of about 475 and sits at an elevation of 4,800 feet. Here is a look down a residential street in Lewisville. The Lewisville knolls are located southwest of town and are readily visible from US-20 and from the west side of Lewisville. Due to private property, the knolls must be hiked from their west side. Both knolls can be hiked via a 2-track road. This photo shows Lewisville Knolls North, elevation 4924, as viewed from the north. Here is the same knoll and the jeep track leading to its summit from the south. This is its neighbor, Lewisville Knolls South, elevation 4912, as viewed from the northwest. Both of these knolls can be hiked year-round. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and smashing the like button. That way the YouTube algorithm will show it to more Idaho lovers out there. Thanks very much for your support. Now back to the video. Return to Lewisville and drive north to Menan. Menan is a town of 734. This photo shows a small public park with a canal and a pedestrian bridge along Main Street in downtown Menan. From Menan, drive a couple miles north to the Menan Buttes. On your way there, you'll see a spur road to a boat access point on the Snake River, which flows past the south end of the buttes. The Henry's Fork of the Snake River flows past the east side of the Menan Buttes and converges with the Snake River at the southeast corner of the buttes. This photo looks across the Snake River at the southern tip of Menan Buttes South. Menan Buttes South, elevation 5,371, is on posted private property and is off limits to the public. This is how the butte looks when viewed from the south. And this is how the butte looks from the north. Notice all the private homes that are perched on the butte's north side. Well, the good news is that Menan Butte's north, elevation 5624, is open to the public and has a well-beaten trail up to the crater rim and the summit area. It's just under 5 miles from Menan to the trailhead parking area. Each of these buttes has a crater in its center that you would never expect when viewing the buttes from a distance. These two photos show Menan Butte's north as viewed from the south. Here is the rugged south face of Menan Butte's north as viewed from the saddle between the two buttes. Little Butte's north, elevation 4955, is located east of Menan. It can be hiked mostly on an ATV trail. This photo shows the sandy summit ridge. Antenna-clad Little Butte South, elevation 4964, is shown in this photo. It is on posted private land and is closed to the public. Let's continue our drive northeast on US-20, either directly from Menan or from Rigby. Next up is Rexburg, a college town of 40,465. It sits at an elevation of 4,865. Here's the town sign, visible at both exits 332 and 333. Rexburg is home to BYU, Idaho, and you thought BYU was only in Provo, Utah. Huh! Just up East 7th Street from the BYU, Idaho sign is the Rexburg Temple, shown here from two different angles. This is a large building. Believe it or not, there is another new temple being constructed at the north end of Rexburg along US-20. Here is Porter Park in downtown Rexburg. Rexburg is also home to Madison High School and the Bobcats. Let's return to US-20 and head northeast to St. Anthony and explore the St. Anthony sand dunes. You can reach the sand dunes either directly up Salem Road from the North Rexburg exit, exit 337, or from exit 346 at St. Anthony. There are several knolls and sandy humps that are climbable in the sand dunes area. Beware, however, that the sand dunes are overrun with ATVs and motorcycles. There is a campground here called Egan Lakes Campground with 48 campsites. This photo shows Sand Mountain, elevation 5,387. The high point is a narrow sand dune. It is arguably the most impressive of the peaks in the St. Anthony Sand Dunes area. 9 Mile Knoll, elevation 4,984, is an easy scramble from nearby 400N. North Juniper's High Point, elevation 6,265, is the high point in the St. Anthony Sand Dunes area. It is shown here. And this is Peak 5961, a neighbor of the North Juniper's High Point. Another neighbor to North Juniper's High Point is Peak 5823, shown in this photo. This is South Juniper's High Point, elevation 6,198. It is on private land, an elk preserve, and is off limits to the public. West Butte, elevation 6,194, is located near South Juniper's High Point and is difficult to reach on public land. Black Knoll, elevation 5,391, is located east of North Juniper's High Point and is on the east side of Red Road. It's an easy scramble. Let's return to the town of St. Anthony and US-20. St. Anthony has a population of 4,081 and sits at an elevation of 4,967. It's the self-proclaimed doorway to the dunes. There are welcome flags on the old-fashioned street lamps in St. Anthony. The fishing motif Probably stems from the fact that the Henry's Fork of the Snake River flows through town. Here is a photo of downtown St. Anthony. The town has a stone historical monument to commemorate the Pioneer Meeting House. Let's jump back on US-20 and continue our journey to Montana. Our next stop is in Ashton. The highway is now a two-lane affair, and there are no longer any formal exits off the highway. This is farm country, and there's a massive grain elevator operation on Main Street, i.e. Highway 47, next to the railroad tracks. Let's get back on US-20. We soon encounter a historical marker for the Three Tetons. They're way off in the distance to the east. We then cross the Henry's Fork of the Snake River a few miles north of Ashton and just east of the Ashton Reservoir. Let's take a look at the Henry's Fork via North River Road, which leaves the highway on the north side of the bridge. Go right or east and drive a short distance to an opportune viewpoint. This photo looks upstream at the beautiful river. A bit farther east on North River Road, we find a large parking area for Jump-Off Canyon. Fishing and boating are popular here. Idaho Fish and Game manages this area. Let's return to US-20. Farther north on the highway, we encounter a geological marker for volcanic calderas, shown here. After this, we encounter several buttes and peaks near the highway that are worthy of exploring. Let's start with Lookout Butte. Please refer to the IACG website for more details on the driving directions and climbing routes for these buttes and peaks. If you're in the mood to bag a butte near the highway, Lookout Butte, elevation 6,259, may be your ticket. But don't let the name fool you. The butte is thickly forested and there is no view from the top. Here's a photo of the large summit boulders. Lookout Butte is a short, not too painful bushwhack from a nearby Forest Service road. Next up is Little Butte, elevation 6,795, a higher butte that sits next to a rougher Forest Service road. This butte will challenge you, as it's steep and is a thick bushwhack, and like many buttes and peaks in this area, it offers no view. However, it's a ranked summit, so some intrepid peak baggers seek it out. And it has a beautiful pyramidal shape, as this photo shows. We finally reach our first BLM or Forest Service campground since leaving Idaho Falls, and this is a nice one. Riverside Campground is about a half-mile from the highway on a spur road, and it sits along the Henry's Fork of the Snake River. It's a nicely shaded, quiet place. Return to US-20 and continue north a short distance to reach Antelope Flat Road, Forest Service Road 168, heading west. Let's check out High Point, elevation 7,281, a higher peak that is in dense pine forest with thick understory. This one is not for trail hikers. Wear your long pants. This photo shows one of the few open areas on the East Ridge. It's a nicely ranked peak in this area. Continue west along Antelope Flat Road for a few miles to reach Antelope Flat, an assigned road junction. Drive up Bishop Mountain Road, a service road, to reach the top of Bishop Mountain, elevation 7,810. The summit has a lookout tower and a summer cabin available for rental. Let's return to US-20. You will soon see a historical marker for the Caldera Lookout. Continue north on US-20. About 2.5 miles north of Antelope Flat Road, reach a signed turnoff for Harriman State Park to the left or west. This is Green Canyon Road, Forest Service Road 167. This road leads to two forested peaks. Thermon Ridge, elevation 7,338, shown here, and Moonshine Mountain, elevation 6,931. Drive about 6 miles to reach Green Canyon Pass. Climb Thermon Ridge from here. Climb Moonshine Mountain either via its connecting saddle with Thermon Ridge or climb it directly from Green Canyon Road to its south. Be prepared for some thick bushwhacking to reach the top. Let's return to US-20. In about 3/10 of a mile, cross Osborne Bridge over Henry's Fork. There are some nice rapids just downstream from the bridge, as seen in this photo. Now the scenery is getting better. In the distance, you can see the high ridge crest of the Centennial Mountains to the northwest. That ridge crest is also the Continental Divide. We will visit the Continental Divide by vehicle when we reach Targhee Pass and Raynolds Pass later in our journey. We soon enter Island Park. Island Park covers a large geographic area. From here, all the way to above the north end of Henry's Lake on US 87. Island Park, population between 170 and 193, sits at an elevation of 6,293 and is the highest city in the state of Idaho. I would have thought that Sun Valley is higher, but it's not. Island Park claims to have the longest main street in America. Farther up the highway, we see a sign for a historical marker. Following a dirt road on the west side of the highway, we reach a parking area down along Henry's Fork and find this sign for the Harriman Wildlife Refuge. This information plaque is down alongside the Henry's Fork at this same location. There's a wooden landing nearby to fish from or to take photos from. The village of Island Park is visible upstream from here. Fishing, boating, and floating are insanely popular in the Island Park area, either on the Henry's Fork or on the nearby Island Park Reservoir. Here's a shot of some high-end summer homes along the Henry's Fork in the Box Canyon area, just off Highway 20. There's a signed turnoff for the Box Canyon Campground at Forest Service Road 134 on Highway 20, just south of the Buffalo Summer Home area. Drive south about 3/10 of a mile to the Box Canyon Campground Road. Go right or west onto that road and drive about a mile to the shaded campground along the Henry's Fork. Box Canyon Campground is quiet and shaded. It's very nice. This photo looks upstream from the boat launch area at the Box Canyon Campground. Now let's return to US 20. Drive about a mile northeast on the highway to reach the Island Park Ranger Station. About 3/10 of a mile past the ranger station, turn left or west off the highway onto a road signed for the Island Park Dam. Drive west then southwest on this paved road for about a mile to the boat ramp. Go straight at a final four-way junction to reach the boat ramp. There are a few floating docks here from which you can get some great photos. Here's a view of Island Park Reservoir, looking southwest from the boat ramp. And here is a view of the reservoir looking northeast from the boat ramp. In this photo, we look northwest across Island Park Reservoir at the high crest of the Centennial Mountains in the distance. Right of center is Sawtail Peak with its large antenna installation. Now let's return to US 20. Across the highway is the campground road for the Buffalo Campground. This campground is close to US 20, and while shaded, it gets a lot of highway noise. Not a good place if you value peace and quiet. About 5 miles farther north on Highway 20, we see a signed turnoff for the Upper Coffee Pot Campground. This secluded campground is about a mile off the highway and is quiet. A short distance farther up the highway is the Flat Rock Campground. Or is it the Flat Rock Campground? Not sure, but it is close to US-20 and has a lot of traffic noise. The Flat Rock Campground has reasonable shade, but too much noise for me. Let's get back to US-20. Sawtell Peak Road leaves US-20 at 5.1 miles north of the Yale-Kilgore Road Junction and just over a mile and a half north of Max Inn. The road is labeled as Lower Loop Road. Go left or northwest onto this initially paved road and follow it all the way to the summit towers of Sawtell Peak, elevation 9,907, in just over 11.5 miles. If you'd like to get some exercise, you can also climb Peak 9482 and Peak 9584 from Sawtell Peak Road. These two peaks sit on opposing sides of Rock Creek Basin. Park at the Sawtell Peak Trailhead, which is located 1.7 miles below the end of the road at the summit towers. Hike up Forest Service Trail 165, Rock Creek Basin Trail, with some ups and downs, to quickly get underneath Peak 9482. Leave the trail and scramble to the summit. Here is its neighbor, Peak 9584, as viewed from the Continental Divide to its south. For more specifics on the climb, please consult the IACG website. Now let's return to Highway 20. We soon reach the final historical marker along the highway before it climbs to Targhee Pass and the Idaho-Montana state line. This sign celebrates the life of Pierre de Smet, the Jesuit leader and explorer of Idaho and Montana. Farther up the highway, Red Rock Road leaves US-20 about 2.7 miles north of Sawtell Peak Road and about 4 miles south of the US-87 junction. This well-maintained road heads northwest, then west to Red Rock Pass, elevation 7,152. You can easily climb Pup Peak, elevation 8580, and shown in this photo, from the pass. You can also climb Peak 8377, shown here, a neighbor of Pup Peak. Both of these peaks are on the north side of the pass. If you feel more adventurous, you can scramble up the more rugged Red Rock Mountain, elevation 9,500, and Mount Jefferson, elevation 10,206, to the south of Red Rock Pass. This photo shows Mount Jefferson. Continuing north on Highway 20, we reach Meadow Creek Road, Forest Service Road 060, about a mile north of the turnoff for Red Rock Road. Meadow Creek Road gives you access to Mount Two Top, elevation 8710, shown in these two photos. These photos show the summit area of Mount Two Top as well as its USGS benchmark. Nearby Peak 7805, shown here, can be bushwhacked from Mount Two Top or directly from Mount Two Top Road. As we drive farther northeast up US-20, we get a good look at three peaks, shown in this photo. Bald Peak, elevation 10192 to the right, Peak 8883 in the center, and Targhee Peak, elevation 10279 to the left in the distance. This is a photo of Bald Peak and Lionhead, elevation 9574, from Highway 20 as we get closer to Targhee Pass. We finally reach Targhee Pass and the Idaho-Montana state line. It's also the Continental Divide. In addition to the Montana welcome sign, Targhee Pass also has a welcome sign for the state of Idaho. And the Idaho sign has two parts. This Idaho-shaped lower sign has plenty of stickers on it. But the upper sign, the standard Idaho welcome sign, is sticker-free. Finally. Only because it's too high to be reached by travelers. The Continental Divide Trail heads north from Targhee Pass initially on an old Jeep road. Bald Peak, elevation 10,192, seen here from the summit of Peak 8883 to its south, can be climbed from Targhee Pass via the Continental Divide Trail. This is the first peak north of Targhee Pass. It is ranked Peak 8340 in mid-ground. This view is from south of Targhee Pass. US-20 is in the foreground, somewhat hidden by pine trees. Peak 8386, the forested ridge in the center of this photo, sits on the Continental Divide south of Targhee Pass. It can be easily reached from the pass. This very tall cairn is on the high ridge on the way to Peak 8386. Peak 8883, previously mentioned, can be reached from the Targhee Creek trailhead near US-20 via a spur road about 2 miles below and southwest of Targhee Pass. Follow the Targhee Creek Trail, Forest Service Trail 027, then the Dry Fork Cutoff Trail to reach the Dry Fork Trail, Forest Service Trail 028. That trail will get you close to the summit of Peak 8883. Targhee Peak, elevation 10279, and North Targhee Peak, elevation 10435, can also be reached from the Targhee Creek trailhead. The Targhee Creek Trail, Forest Service Trail 027, will get you close to both summits. Alternatively, these two peaks can be climbed via the Mile Creek Trail in Montana. This is a photo of Targhee Peak from Peak 8883 to its southeast. Now let's return to Targhee Pass and US-20. Let's do a 9-mile side trip up US 87 past Henry's Lake to the Continental Divide at Raynolds Pass. Drive southwest down US 20 for 4 miles to its signed junction with US 87. Drive northwest on US 87 and you'll see this view of the Henry's Lake Mountains to the west of Henry's Lake. Henry's Lake can be seen in the foreground. Drive just past the north end of Henry's Lake on US 87 and look for signed Henry's Lake Road going left or west. Drive 4/10 of a mile west on Henry's Lake Road to reach a public parking area on the south side of the road. Park here and enjoy the magnificent unobstructed view of Henry's Lake and the surrounding mountains. This photo is looking south at Henry's Lake from this pullout. These photos look southwest across Henry's Lake at some of the higher Henry's Lake mountains, including Sawtell Peak and Mount Jefferson. The second photo shows the homes along the north shore of the lake as viewed from US 87. Here's the view of Mount Jefferson from the north shore of Henry's Lake. It's just magnificent. This is an aerial photo of Henry's Lake from the summit of Peak 9584 to its southwest. Return to US 87 and take a look at the historical marker across the highway for Sawtell's Ranch. Let's get back on the highway and finish our side trip to Raynolds Pass. We'll get there in a few short miles. As with Targhee Pass, the Continental Divide crosses Raynolds Pass. Raynolds Pass sits at 6,834 feet. Black Mountain, elevation 10,243, sits above Raynolds Pass to its east, but we can't see the high point from here. It towers over 3,400 feet above the pass. If we drive a short distance southeast down US 87 into Idaho, we get this view of the rugged rocky high point of Black Mountain. Now we can return to US 20 and then to Idaho Falls, which wraps up today's adventure. If you enjoy this type of content, please smash the like and subscribe buttons. Feel free to drop a comment if you've done some interesting driving or hiking in the state of Idaho. Stay tuned for more videos on the Idaho Explorer channel. Thanks very much for your support.